talking today to the best fleets to drive for overall winner in the small carrier category on today's edition of the Best Fleets to Drive For podcast. I'm Jane Jazrawy, and I am speaking today with Sherri Garner Brumbaugh, who is the CEO/president of Garner Trucking, and Tim Chrulski, who is the Chief Operations Officer of Garner Trucking. So welcome to the two of you. You are not strangers to talking to us, that is for sure. So we've had a podcast with you last year with Chris Henry, but now you get to talk to me.
We're excited.
Yes, thanks, Jane.
And the first thing that I want to do is get your reaction to being the overall small fleet division winner.
Well, you know, it has been a whirlwind, and it's been several years of participating in the program, making us a better trucking company, I believe. And it just has resonated within our ranks as, as our drivers said, we knew we were best fleets to drive for. Now everybody else does.
Yeah.
And so on a national stage with our peers have been very congratulatory, and I've gotten all kinds of emails and cards and congratulations. So it's wonderful to get those accolades. But then back home, right, Tim? I mean, it's resonating here back home that Findlay, this little small trucking company, is on a national stage and received this award, this recognition.
Yeah, I agree with all Sherri's sentiments there. It's been a really kind of cool little journey from the time that we received the award even through today. We're love to be on that national stage, and we participate there, but we participate locally in several different community events, and everyone's been very congratulatory. But I think the biggest portion of that, and really the message that we've really felt about the whole Best Fleets program, regardless of winning, not winning, is what it's done to the organization, and how it's challenged us every year, and how it's pushed us to think differently and to be a little better, and to make sure that we're embracing all of these different dynamics that you need to look at if you're going to run a successful business.
Listening to your drivers, right? Just zip it and listen.
I think it's funny because constantly when people are asking me about best fleets, I'm talking about communication over and over and over again. I feel like I'm just, beating a dead horse, but it's true. It's about listening, and it's about doing the things that you say you're going to do.
Yep.
And, obviously you've kind of done that over the years. So after the Best Fleets to Drive For is over, what is the process that you go through to kind of prepare for the next year?
Well, actually, we're a little bit behind. We've been through a major renovation here at our offices, so we've all been kind of in different workspaces. And in fact, today I just got back into my workspace, so we haven't done our traditional sit down and debrief. But typically, we like absorb. We're like, yay, that was a lot of work, and about a month or so afterwards, we'll sit down with the book, with the playbook, if you will, the program. And we're going to actually do this today, finally this afternoon.
That's
but then
right,
then we take the survey, we look at the results of our survey, we'll look at the data. In what areas did we do well? What areas didn't we do well, and why? And then we'll just note those. We'll just kind of absorb that. And then we'll go back to our departments and say, okay, and you can't, at the beginning it was like 10, 20 things, right? And then we'll come back and we'll say, well, this department, let's address it this way. Let's address it this way. Let's put resources towards this. This we absolutely can't do. This is just not going to be part of our culture. And prioritize. I don't know, Tim, if you would add any more to that, but it's really a collaboration of across all departments, across everybody has a responsibility for, improvement.
Do you talk to your drivers after the fact about what you're changing and what the survey said?
Yes. So those comments from the drivers are very valuable, right, Tim? I mean, and that's what we'll send back to the drivers. This is what you said.
Ah,
So, and this is how we're going to address it. We've prioritized it this way. So absolutely, yes.
We've gotten louder with that over the years too.
Mhm.
I think that's an important point to bring to light. I know we'll probably talk a little bit about the driver advisory board today,
mhm.
but that has been kind of a key piece to success because we've injected a good diverse grouping of drivers, new drivers, old drivers, female, male, different backgrounds. All of those things are really important. But at the end of the day, if you have that meeting and you don't share the discussion and share those
Yeah,
results and get
right.
them back to the rest of the fleet,
Yeah,
it's meaningless. It's meaningless.
that's right.
So we've worked very hard at making sure that when those meetings happen, there's discussion, internal discussion between all of management. That information gets disseminated. We go to action, whatever those calls to action are.
Mhm.
And then we make sure that that information gets right back to the entire fleet, that we're publicizing it in
Right.
our newsletters. We're talking about it at town hall meetings, about all of these different pieces so that they're aware and up to date.
It's so important. How many times have you completed a survey and went, I wonder what was the result of that? And then the next time you get a survey and go, well, that's what I, so you have to give that feedback or it's an exercise in futility.
No, exactly. Then they're just sort of talking into the wind, or I always call it talking into the void.
Mhm.
Now, your company is about 90 to 100 drivers. So, do
Mhm.
you find that you have any disadvantages to being a smaller company? And what would you say to? I'm going to give you a two-part question. What would you say to companies that are even smaller than you are in how successful they could be in this program? Because
I think that's a fantastic question, first of all. I
it's two
don't know.
parts.
Without making any obscene references, I don't know that size really matters. I think really what it's about is how in tune are you with your people, with your employees, with your drivers. If you have 10 drivers and 8 of the 10 want things this way and you're able to do that, and it makes sense for the organization to do it that way, then execute, get it done.
Mhm.
The same's true at 50 or 80 or 90 or 100, whatever that number might be. Sure, there's more voices and more opinions, but you're still going to find a majority. You're still going to find those things that drivers have a common need for, common want for. And not everything has to be monetary. It could be just simple
Mhm.
decision-making things. This business might be better than this business. This customer isn't treating our drivers as well as this other customer does. And you have to weigh those things. You have to make decisions based off of that input. I think where you could fail at this is that you get the input and then don't do something with that. That's the real failure point. So I don't know that size really matters. It's about what you do, how you gather that information, how you communicate it, how you execute based upon it, and then making sure the end result's known.
I think it's about culture, whatever organization it is, large or small. It's that what kind of company do you want to what I know what company I want to represent me. My name's on the side of that that truck, right? So I know what I want to represent, and that's that's important. I surround myself with those types of people. So it's those caring and capable people that care about what they do and care about the company that they work for. And that's what comes back to the value of the company.
So on that, or maybe sort of related to that, because I started asking you questions that had nothing to do with what I told you I was going to ask about, which is my thing. I have to ask Mark. I'm never doing what you expect. What in terms of that feedback and that constant communication with drivers, one of the things that we really noticed about about what you do in your company that's really different is your driver advisory board.
Mhm.
And one of the most astonishing things, and is really unusual, is that you give them a budget.
Mhm.
And I wanted to just talk a little bit about, how did that driver advisory evolve, and how did you end up with the budget?
Well,
And how has it been working?
that was sitting those first several years, watching my peers on stage, getting this award, getting this recognition, and many of them had driver advisory boards. Yep, they had a driver's advisory board. Yep, they had a driver's advisory board. I wanted ours to be different. I wanted ours to stand out. And then again, caring and capable people. I know what I want, but that isn't necessarily what a driver need is. So I could spend a lot of money on a lot of stuff that they don't need. So, give them a portion of the budget and let them spend. But I tell you, it took a couple of years for them to spend their money. They're so frugal. They're like, no, we just don't spend. And we'd give them ideas, because then it was, we don't want to tell them what to spend their money on, to spend as part of the budget. So they've come up with some pretty creative ideas then over the year, and we've had to nudge them along. We've had to say, this is for yours to spend. What do you need? And so I think that's what made the creative piece of that. And so they enjoy it, and they can stand up in front of their peers and say, we did this for you. And they reach out to their peers and say, what do you want? What do you need? What could we improve at Garner? And we've got some money to spend on that.
Oh, that's very cool. Tim, are you involved in, or can you tell me a little bit about how people become members of the driver advisory board, or do they cycle in and out?
Yeah, so it's pretty much about a 2-year stint for an advisory board member. We don't want things to get too common, too stale. We want to keep things creative. Some are volunteers, others are asked. Especially when you get to a new driver, maybe that's only been with us for 5-6 months or a year. They might not be the first to raise their hand, so we might need to put an arm around them and say, hey, we've got this opportunity. Obviously, I mentioned some of the dynamics and the diversity of that group as well. That to me is really the key of the success there, because it's very easy for a group of drivers that have been with us for 5, 10, 15 years to be able to tell you that this is the way it needs to be and here's what we want. And it doesn't correlate with what the majority or the minority wants, so you have to have all of those voices heard, I think. But yeah, we try to circulate it out. We do have a chairperson for that. So it's driver led. It's not, it's bowling with bumper guards is what it is. So you've got all of management typically is representative. But we put the bumper guards up just to kind of keep everything on the straight and narrow. We had several years ago, and I think this is a failure point for advisory boards. Many years ago, we had an advisory board, and it turned into kind of this complaint session, and that's different from advising. So this particular iteration has been a bit more nurturing in that respect, and very, very some clear lines have been put down. The other thing that I always I invite all of our management team to be a part of each advisory board meeting. And thankfully they show up. But I don't want to make it mandatory. I don't want to make it forced. I don't want it to be, a demand, because I want the drivers to feel like they can speak freely. And so my only, I guess, command for that meeting is, you don't get to say no to anything. You don't get to tell a driver in that setting why we can't do something. And I think that helps that process quite a bit, because what's going to happen with all that information, it's going to go back in front of the same people. We're going to have those discussions, but we're going to have it as a group, and we're going to figure out how we do something versus how we can't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Figure out how to say yes.
Yep.
That is an excellent way of looking at it. And it also gives you, it kind of leads you away from the people who said, oh, we tried that 15 years ago and it didn't work, so we can't ever think of doing it again.
Yeah, as one of the old guys now, I have to be terribly careful of that. I really do. Because you have those conversations. Oh, we tried this 20 years ago. We tried this 15 years ago. It doesn't matter. Things are different today.
Yeah, exactly. We were trying to get drivers to use laptops in their cabs, and that did not work. But we can still use technology in the cabs, just maybe not that. Sort of switching gears a little bit, you have recently embarked on a journey with some NASCAR racing. And I wanted to hear about that because I think that happened kind of after the Best Fleet stuff.
Yes, well, it was in the works, we were in negotiations, and so you can't, until the ink is dried, you got to keep it, so it was a process. Yeah, there was that. So, and we're dealing with NASCAR, which is a whole different level of contract negotiations that I had been involved in. And so, but it was a relationship that developed over a vendor introduction to, they were in part of the Xfinity series, and they invited us to a race, and the marketing person that represented the Xfinity driver had connections with the Cup Series, and she asked if we had an interest in the Cup Series, and I thought there was as a whole different level than I could even imagine that Garner could be involved in. I grew up with NASCAR. I went to NASCAR races with my dad. I love NASCAR, and my family loves NASCAR. It's not everybody likes it. I understand that. So you have to be respectful. We do a lot of different things for our drivers and our families and our employees, but you have to be respectful of the dollar. But connection was made, and this isn't a, Hendricks, or they have association with Hendricks, but this isn't a Hendricks team or a Penske team or, Roush team. This is a, you have professional teams, A level, A team. This is a B team, and this is their niche. This is only their second year in the Cup Series, and this is the first year they've had two cars. So they're very young. They're green. They needed trucks. They needed trucks.
That was the connection.
Yeah.
Oh, they needed to be carted around.
Yeah.
I just have this vision of Pixar. The cargo. I can't remember anybody's character names, but I remember, getting into the Mack truck.
Yep. So that's the value add. So it started, we were going to provide them a couple of our trucks, and it turns out that wouldn't work with what they needed. And we had a couple open slots of trucks. And so we've spec those to what they need. And so they're going to it's a 3-year relationship right now. And the value that we brought to them was not the trucks, but this year it's a new car. They could focus on that car. They could focus on what they know to do, and that's NASCAR, running that car, running that Cup Series and trying to figure it out, and the tires and all of that. All along, their trucks kept breaking down. For their car haulers, they kept, because they were so, one is like a 2000. They only put like 50,000 miles on a truck a year. So we came in with our truck dealer, and we spec'd out that we did all that legwork, and they were so appreciative that at Kansas they put us on a car. And that was totally unexpected. And I said, well, we just won this Best Fleets to Drive for. Can we put that on the lid? And they're like, sure, why not? Send us the logo. So that's when I reached out.
That was very exciting. It was like, whoa, we've never been on a race car before. This is kind of cool. So I will you can see, well, at some point we'll get a picture of that race car. Oh, do you guys have a photo of the actual?
I do.
We have the print, but I need to see a photo.
We'll get you one. Those are all in the works. We're going to get you some.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So I guess if you guys are speccing trucks for them, are you using some of Garner's drivers to operate them, or how are the drivers involved?
Yeah, they have their own drivers. They'll operate under their own authority. But I'll have to tell you this real quick story about, so Corey LaJoy is their driver, and he's a nice young man. He's 30. The wife are expecting their second child. He's just a very nice young man. He's very approachable. But the very first race, we went down to Talladega and we're supposed to do a final spec on the truck, and they put Garner on the car. I wasn't expecting it at all, but that was exciting. But I walked up with some Garner swag for the driver, and I had bags of Garner swag with a Garner hat and some t-shirts and things like that. And the owner, the Spire Motorsports, is the owner of the 7 and 77 car. And I said, here, we've got something for your drivers. And he goes, well, Corey's in the hauler. He can come out. And I'm like, oh, this is for your truck drivers. So I had, we have to be, because I'm all about their truck drivers, right? I care about what their truck drivers are doing, what their truck drivers are wearing, the race car drivers. He's cool.
Yeah,
He's a nice kid. He's cool. But I have to be, when I talk to them about driver, they think I'm all about the race car driver. And I'm like, oh no, I want to meet your truck drivers.
Have your drivers been able to go to a race, or have?
So we have some future races, and they've allowed us a certain number of Garner employees are allowed to attend.
Oh, very cool.
So that's the pit experience. It's on the grid when they're doing the opening ceremonies, when they're introducing the driver. So it's it's right up and person close.
Yeah, kind of like, like being right behind the diamond at a ball game. That's very cool. Now, on that note, like talking about apparel and things like that, you have a whole apparel program, and it was kind of notable when we were going through the Best Fleets process. Tim, can you tell me how that whole milestone thing came about?
Yeah,
and what it involves?
Well, first of all, that was kind of an employee-driven thought process in the first place.
That came from the driver's advisory board.
Yep.
Right.
And and they've still been adding to it too. So we've got some high fashion drivers, so they wanted some Nike apparel and some other things added to the list, and we're able to accommodate, which is great. So we're still taking feedback as it goes, but basically what the program itself is it's recognition for years of service. And with certain years of service, you receive some dollars, and that starts at year one. Actually, it starts before year one. They've got some money out there before you even get to your first year.
Oh, that's cool.
That you can purchase some things from the apparel website that we have, and obviously as you go, the dollar amounts increase, and gives you an opportunity to buy some things that you want to buy. It's again, it's back to it's easy for Sherri or myself to say, okay, we'd like to do some t-shirts, or we'd like to do some golf shirts, and maybe the driver doesn't really want the golf shirt. Maybe they want, maybe something else is a little more important to them. So it gives a good opportunity for them to buy into that. And it's just simply a reward for your time here and the dedication and services that each one of our drivers and people provide.
So
thanks for reminding me, I got to spend my money this month too yet.
So you have a certain amount of money that you can spend. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. It's and again, it's in increments. So it may be that you're at year one and you're getting $100 to spend for that, and you go out to the website, pick those items that you want, and then they'll get shipped here and they can pick them up here.
Oh, so it's not fake money. This is actual real money.
It's actual dollars.
Okay, very cool. This is why I thought it was cool. Now you're reminding me of why I thought it was cool. And well, you also have some interesting real money programs. Like, so for example, and I have a whole bunch of, it all kind of crowds around the idea of family being really important. You have, concept of vacation buyback, which I thought was a really,
Mhm.
really good idea. As a person who tends to not use their vacation and has to be
Mhm.
forced on vacation, if I could buy back all of that unused vacation, that would be very cool. So like, how
Mhm.
does that work?
Again, drivers have asked for several years to, hey, can I, give back my vacation? And we're like, no, you need to take the vacation. Please take the vacation. And for a long time, we, didn't, wouldn't allow it. But the interest of, last year came Christmas time, and you're looking at your vacation accruals, and you're going to be paying that out. And
Yep.
so, we looked at it and we said, gosh, if somebody wanted to take it in April, that kind of helps the cash flow too. So, but we put a cap on it too. If they have 4 weeks, they can only, I think it's at 2, Tim. I think they can only sell back 2. We really want them to, you got to get out of that truck and clear your head and, take some time, stretch your legs. So, we do allow that, and they're appreciative of it. To your point too, I don't use all my vacation, so be nice to get it back.
Get something.
Mhm.
Actually, yeah, definitely. And you had
You're gonna pay it anyway, right?
exactly. And you may as well, yeah, I think it means a little bit more, but you also have it as when you do that buyback program, don't you get, it's
A double. It
yeah, you
doubles.
get it
Yeah.
doubles. So it's
Yeah.
way more advantageous
You're
for people to
The
buy
other
it back.
point of that, the other point to that, Jane, is that be a commander of your ship. It's your finances, it's your time, it's your life, it's your vacation. You be a commander of your ship.
I think that's a really important perspective, a way of looking at how you can control basically the commander of your ship or the captain of your ship, control of your life, control of your finances. I think a lot of people in the driving who are professional drivers often feel like they don't have control. And that, that you're being steered from one place to another, and you don't, you're not going to get home when you want to, and you're not going to make the money you think you're going to make. And what you do is, with that program and with your other programs, because you also have a guaranteed minimum, you have also had you gave people a thank you day after COVID. So that has all really, I think, helped. It helps people feel like that they're in control. Like, is that kind of what you were going for, or is that just a nice add-on?
And Tim will tell you, giving a penny to a driver, just throwing it's not our culture. I don't want to give something to our drivers. Tim and I talk about this a lot, right? We don't want to give something and have to take it back. So if you can give something incrementally, that vacation day, that thank you day also came with a day's pay, our average day pay. So some could say, I'll take that day, some didn't. So they got double, they still worked that
either way
extra
they
day.
get paid.
They got a trifecta there. So I don't ever want to give something to our drivers and have to take it away.
Going back to that and just your whole philosophy on how you want to run your company, how did Tim actually, how did he come to Garner? How long have you been with Garner, Tim? Because you had told me a story. You told me a story at the convention about when you were looking for a company or looking for a carrier to drive with, then one of the companies was Garner. And I don't know if you told Sherri about the other company.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So just to fill in the blank there, originally when I started my 25th year is this year. Actually, this May is 25 years with Garner, and I started as a driver, looking for the right company with the right things. Family's important to me. Smaller organization was definitely on that list as well. And I found 2 companies that really kind of what I felt fit the bill. I applied to the one company that I am still currently employed by, and the other company was the big carrier winner this year, Challenger. So it was kind of cool. And really, there were a lot of parallels between the two organizations. I just felt that this was being in my wife's hometown, that this would be a better fit. That was kind of the final deal breaker. There was that, okay, this is right in my wife's hometown. So
yeah, and Challenger's in Ontario, so
right.
you might have met me if you had stayed with Challenger for 25 years. You might have known me outside of this. So how did your career progress? If you started as a driver, then, over the last 25 years, and this is the only company you've driven for.
Yeah. It's an advantage and a disadvantage, I think, sometimes. So I did spend 4 years behind the wheel. I learned quite a bit about the trucking world at that point. There was a great opportunity. The company at that time was looking at growth, and felt that one of the areas that they needed to develop was their recruiting. At that time, there was an individual who handled things. In fact, Sherri's sister was that person at that time, and was kind enough to put that out, interview me along with 20 other drivers for that position. And thankfully I was the one they chose. And I recruited for 7 years and built a program that didn't exist at that point, and was able to hand that off and move into sales. I did that for about 3 years, which is, totally different dynamic. And of course, you're going to take a role on like corporate sales, and you're going to do that right as the Great Recession hits.
Oh, was it around 2007?
Yeah, it was 08, 09, and 10.
Okay.
If you're going to learn how to sell, that's the time to do it, because you're just battered and bloody every single day. And that's all I ever have to say about my experience in sales. And then really there was a calling from Sherri to take a look at becoming the operations director. And that was a big giant move for me, and certainly one of, frankly, a bit of discomfort. As I got started, I wasn't sure about that particular move for me and my skill set. And thankfully things have worked out pretty well. And now, I'm, I guess, 3 years into COO, and it's been a great journey. I don't have enough good things to say. I don't care if she's on the line or not.
I was gonna say, I'll just get rid of you, and then Sherri and I can just talk.
There you go. But that's the abridged version of 25 years at this point.
And that's very cool, because I never asked you about it. And when we were having multiple conversations at the convention, but it's an interesting journey when I hear about how people got into trucking, and then how people have sort of progressed, because Sherri's story is very different. And we've talked about Sherri's story, which involves, which I think is funny, is that we have drums are in all three of our spheres.
Right?
Some of us play them, some of us just listen to other people play them. Some people try to teach people how to play them. The one thing that, going back to driving and your whole driver training program, which is the last thing that I wanted to touch on for this podcast, because I have like a whole bunch of notes that I could keep going for hours, but we are limited, is the and I know that you have Sherri's like original career was in teaching, and there was a lot of great education that you do at Garner. But one of the things that I hadn't really seen before is something called commentary training. And I thought that was like, can you describe what that is? I don't know if Tim is a better person to talk about it than,
I'm just happy to talk about
how
it.
what that involves, and how effective is it?
So you have to understand that kind of the training program here has been a real evolution. I can testify that 25 years ago, I was one of those trainees, and to know where that program was to where it is now is dynamically different. There's very careful selection of who's going to be behind the wheel. Not that there wasn't then, but I think it's a bit more honed at this point. Certainly we consider everything. We consider personality in those decisions, because everything that we're talking about or going to talk about, it boils down to these things. You've got to be able to effectively communicate. Here we are, we're back to communication.
Yeah, no.
You've got to be able to effectively communicate, and I think in order to do
Sure.
that, you have to have the right people put together. Your smokers with smokers, your non-smokers with non-smokers, your females with females, your males with males. All of these things I think are really important to the success of the trainee. And then one of the things that we wanted to do was set a standard here in terms of these are the conversations. Everyone does the job a little bit differently. They're all doing it safely. They're all doing it great. They're the reason they're involved with the training program, our trainers are involved with it, is because they're an excellent representation of what we want them to pass on to someone else. Oddly enough, having a steering wheel and driving up and down the road is done a billion different ways, depending on who you talk to. So what we wanted to do is really have some uniformity between all of our trainers, and we've kind of just beat this drum of 8 points. And as long as we can get through those 8 points, we feel like we're having some real success. So, it's everything from traffic laws to safe driving practices, to your attitude, hours of service, different company policy, trip planning, inspections. There's a bunch of different things that we look at, but it falls into those 8 categories. And what we do then is we're having conversation with our driver trainers on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
We're also having conversation and getting feedback from our trainees through that process as well. And then as a final piece to all that, at the end, they're both doing surveys about the training itself, and where they feel like they're at before we finish that up. There might be some skill sets. You can be very successful at driving up and down the road. You can be very successful with backing into a dock and doing paperwork and all these different things, but maybe you're still having some problems with the data entry that needs to happen with our communication system. Maybe you're having problems with trip planning. Maybe you are having problems with backing. We want to be able to make sure we can give that special attention to those things, because at that point, you've got an investment in an individual. They obviously want to do the job. They're excelling in those other areas. We just got to make sure that they're up to par on everything. And the only way you know that is by having conversation and having that weekly and understanding what those achievements are and shortcomings are.
Cool. I like that whole thing about doing surveys with the trainer and the trainee. That when I guess that those are separate and you don't have the trainer.
Yeah, we don't want them together.
Survey. No. So do you share the results of that feedback with the trainer? Do
Absolutely.
you do anything with the trainee? Do you ever talk to them about it?
That door swings both ways. Obviously, you have a captive audience with the trainee because they're coming in for kind of a final orientation, making sure they've got everything before they're ready to go out. So that part of the communication is a little bit easier, but we have to circle back to the trainer as well and let them know, here's the feedback and here's some areas that you're doing great in. Here's some areas we could probably handle things differently, or something for you to keep in mind. The toughest part of that gig, and the reason why I never wanted to train, is because you're letting someone into your tiny house for 2 to 3 weeks, and that is your space, your domain at that point. So you have to be respectful of that, but at the same time, that person that you're letting in is a guest in your home, and you want to do your best to accommodate that individual as well. And for those of us that have a house guest that comes over for a weekend or for a week, we know what that can be like. That we're not living the same lives, each one of us.
That's interesting. Do you talk about that with your driver trainers? Because I know that having someone in the cab with you for 2 weeks is got to be, crazy making.
I am a good reminder, is that I will put an arm around a trainer just about at any time and thank them for the job that they do, because there's no way that I could do that job, and for those reasons. And that's why it's important that they hear that and they know that for sure. That's special people.
Do you have success? Like, how has been your success rate? Because I know that you have a lot of people coming in as entry level.
Yeah. So it's, kind of one of the things, again, that for many years, Sherri always uses this phrase, the secret sauce. I've spilled a little bit of that today.
You have.
But I think we're very successful with it in terms of what we're able to do from a driver that's dangerous enough to get a CDL to turning them into a professional driver. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So Sherri, do you have any last words on that? Or just in general?
Well, just that's a very strong teacher side of me. I love training. I support at all levels training here and encourage it. And some days I'm like, let's haul some freight. My operations director is like, can we haul some freight today? And it's like, yeah, let's do that. We got some bills to pay. But no, I'll just finish saying there's just two exciting things that are happening here, and as a result of Best Fleets to Drive For, and that is that tomorrow we are going to unveil our driver's lounge.
Ooh.
And on every Best Fleet survey for the last 6 years, we've had a complaint from our drivers that we don't have a 24-hour accessible. Yeah. So part of our renovations, we built out in our warehouse a driver's lounge. So we're going to have an open house tomorrow and open up our driver's lounge in time for the long weekend for them to.
And it's going to be 24 hours and facilities.
24 hours facility. So.
And that's quite hilarious, because I'm going to share with you, because you have so nicely done this podcast with me, that you had a 96.5% driver satisfaction, which, so I was looking at the comments, and that was what the comments were about.
Oh, we look at them too.
Absolutely.
We look at them too.
Absolutely.
So
we're really, we've come up with Tim, I kudos to Tim, getting money more back to the drivers. And I told him, I said, I don't mind getting, let's get money back. Let's get it back to them. But I want my top performers. I want my performers that care about how they operate that truck to get the money. And it's like I back in college, I had a music professor that said, Sherri, your band is going to be as good as your third chair trumpet player. So if you can make that third chair trumpet player coming in as a freshman in high school to a first chair, by the time they're a senior, you have improved the level of your band, right? It's the same thing. I've got a big marching band here. They drive trucks, and I just have to improve that. And so Tim created surrounded by some great people here, a program that we're going to give. And I can't wait to fill out the application next year for Best Fleets to Drive For. That's the next thing.
Oh, you're not going to tell me what it is?
Oh, no.
We're armed and dangerous this year, Jane.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking forward to that. That is,
okay.
I'm going to have to do your interview then.
A little teaser.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, Sherri. I think that is a lovely note to end on. I would like to thank you both, Tim Chrulski and Sherri Garner Brumbaugh, for joining me on my second solo venture into Best Fleets podcasting. And I really look forward to September.
Great. All right.
We do as well.
I do. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.